Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are playing on the Plateau of the Dead as the Vampire Counts against the forces of the Empire. So, for this match I did decide to do something just a tad different from my usual build. I did swap out Mannfred in for Vlad. One of the key reasons is simply to get Spear Leech in there, honestly, and just to get a little bit more utility with casting. Vlad is very tanky, and one of the things he does well is to survive. If your Luminarch starts sniping, you can often just pop the Karstein ring, tank the first two shots on the path in, and then get into the fight. Mannfred can't really do that, but I figured, you know what, it's not that likely my opponent will bring a Luminarch, right? And in the worst case, I can just skirt around the edges and cast spells. Well, my opponent did bring a Luminarch, went with a very, very shooting-heavy build, and this is definitely going to be a bit of a messy engagement. For the front line, this usual double Graveguard, Sternsmen, double zombie sort of setup. You get a bunch of these guys are just good at sort of absorbing damage, and of course the Graveguard will cleave through state troops and cheap chaff infantry very effectively. Out on the flanks, really the main strike force, of course, double Direwolves, one of which is the Dire Pack, double Blood Knights, and double Vargulfs. So basically mirror setup on either flank, ready to shut down enemy heavy cav. I found Vargulfs are just such a great unit, and before I never really respected them, I never really used them very often, but I found them to be very, very useful. Now my opponent here went with they obviously provide terror, they provide AP, they're very mobile, so they're a very solid unit. I definitely would recommend them in some matchups. For my opponent here, though, very shooting-heavy build. Basically a front line composed entirely of free company, including the Sterling's Revenge over here. I'm not even entirely sure how many there were. There are some handguns mixed in as well, for silver bullets and a normal unit of handguns over there. We've got 2 crossbows, I do believe, and then the rest is free company. So a lot of free company going in. They are backed by a very small sort of support contingent. My opponent did bring a Luminarch, a General of the Empire on foot, Bright Wizard with 4 spells, no Power Stone, but he does have Kindle Flame. He's got Fireball, which is a good spell. Honestly, all these spells are good. There's some chaff clearing there with the Burning Head. He's got some buffs to his shooting with fire damage with Flaming Sword of Ruin, or in melee you can use it as well. Cascading Fire Cloak for defensive purposes, and a Fireball, so not bad. General of the Empire, dirt cheap, hold the line, Foe Seeker, and stand your ground, and then then Temple of Luminarch with the net. Finally, Knights of the Blazing Sun over here, and double Empire Knights, one on either end. But definitely very, very shooting heavy, and definitely the Luminarch is a big threat. It's a big threat to my Vargulfs, it's a big threat to Mannfred. It does immense amounts of damage per shot. If we look at the Luminarch's exact damage, even after the damage got reduced, you can see it's still doing about 1,300 or maybe even a little more than 1,300 damage a shot, plus the explosive damage. So against the Vargulf, who's vulnerable to fire damage, it'll be taking off about a quarter or maybe even a third of your HP. So definitely some brutal stuff. We do get a bit of a snare here on the Sterling's Revenge, and on the other flank, unfortunately, I throw my Dire Pack in against the Empire Knights, hoping to bog them down. My opponent countercharged, and of course the Empire Knights would win because of their heavy armor, but definitely a bit of a mistake. I should pull these guys out sooner, but you can see once the Blood Knights and Vargulfs get on there, that is going to be good night Empire Knights. Same thing happening over here. Though my opponent's withering crossfire from the handguns from the free company from the crossbows is definitely teaching me a bit of a lesson here. And you can see I'm trying to be careful here with Mannfred, trying to skirt around the edges of the Luminarch, knowing full well that my opponent is looking for a bead. He's looking for an opportunity to shoot Mannfred down. And 2 or 3 hits and Mannfred's a goner. Over here, the Dire Pack is getting clear of the fight, and that means they're going to be able to recover their leadership, get back into shape. And you can see the Empire Knights are just collapsing. Unfortunately, the Luminarch there firing on a stationary Mannfred and immediately taking him down. If we look, his starting HP pool was 2241, and he was dropped, or 30. His starting HP was 3645, so he lost about 40% of his HP. Granted, my opponent there, very clever play there, and I'm not sure if it was intentional or accidental, but regardless, he casted his fire. He's casted a spell. He casted Burning Head right as he was firing with the Luminarch, which meant Kindle Flame was active, which means Mannfred was taking an extra 22% damage. So pretty cool synergy there. Whether intentional or not, I'm not entirely sure, but nonetheless very potent. In the meantime, though, here in the pits, you can see the Blood Knights just running amok, crunching through these crossbows. The Free Company Militia, of course. Free Company Militia, very solid melee combatant, but against Blood Knights and heavy cav of this caliber, they're just no match. You can see the Blood Knights already up to 62 kills, just having absolute field day. The Knights of the Blazing Sun desperately trying to stem the tide here, but these Blood Knights are having none of it. They're just overwhelming the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Unfortunately, a bit of a mismicro here on the Vargulf, not putting him in as well. But the Blood Knights will handily win this regardless. You can see the Knights of Blazing Sun have not scored a single kill in return, which is definitely some pretty brutal stuff. In the pits, in the meantime, you can see the Graveguard tying down the Spearman. Now, this is cost-effective for my opponent, definitely, but at the same time, he's not really getting much done, and because I still have all these other units to sort of harass, it means that my opponent really isn't able to shut me down. Unfortunately, over here you can see Mannfred trying to juke, and I saw the charging shot, so I tried to juke last second, tried to do a bit of a swerve there, but it's not going to work. You can see Mannfred there getting clipped and losing a good chunk of HP. Meantime, the Dire Pack sitting back there waiting. I honestly probably should just pull them in. You can see I do pop the Master of the Black Arts, but now, or Arts. But now my opponent is definitely in a bit of a pickle as the Luminarch is being forced to flee. His backline has been very heavily compromised. You can see the Free Company, the handguns, and all those troops just on the run. Silver Bullets trying to reposition. We're using the Graveguard here to screen out this blob of shooting. And you can see they're going to be crumping through the Spearmen pretty effectively. Once again, while here in the pits, we are just overrunning these pockets of handguns and shooting slowly but surely, just an inexorable advance that's really getting quite a lot done. Mannfred, in the meantime, is just camping in the background because that's all you can do. One of the things to keep in mind, though, when if your opponent zones your Lord out, for example, Mannfred here, he did basically zone me out. All I can do is kind of cast spells from very long range and play very safe. So, yes, he's gotten about 2,000 gold off the table. But if he's not firing at Mannfred, his Luminarch basically isn't doing very much. It might do okay against the Vargulf, it probably would, but it's really difficult for it to get value if you don't give it the targets that allow it to generate value. So if you keep those targets, you're essentially just keep making an even trade, I think. And you can see Mannfred coming back in. We did pop Invocation in the Heck, which heals him up by about 800 or maybe even more. It's actually probably going to be even more. It's over 1,000 healing there. And the Luminarch is actually going to rout here. You can see just getting pulverized by the Blood Knights, by the Vargulf, not able to escape, just running for dear life. And this is a pretty ideal Luminarch map, so it's just not. It's just very tough. You definitely have to be wary of that sort of stuff. But you can see here it's being zoned off over here. Spear Leech going down the General of the Empire. But instead of giving him a fair fight here, I'm simply running away, letting the Dire Pack do some mop up, bogging down the Bright Wizard with zombies here. Look at him, he's got 126 kills, he's been doing work, but it's just not enough. More skeleton summons on the Spearman, just constantly pressuring my opponent's backline. You can see the Blood Knights here running amok through the Silver Bullets. My opponent's cavalry contingent in the back, really just not able to do very much. He's got a single mini unit of Knights with Blazing Sun, single mini unit of Empire Knights, but you can see the Blood Knights just having a field day. I think these guys gained like 3 chevrons over the course of this game. You can see they're up to 99 kills. I think I didn't even have 1 maybe chevron on these guys going in. You can see these guys up to 2 chevrons now. Back here, this Graveguard unfortunately chased the spears way too far, but it is what it is. And now this one, my opponent's army shatters to army losses. So my opponent definitely went with a bit of a gimmicky build. It was very shooting heavy. In my opinion, Free Company, I know some people are very fond of Free Company because they can defend themselves, but Mass Free Company I don't think is that good against Vampire counts because what you'll often see is Graveguard. And Graveguard kind of ignores and shrugs off Free Company. In fact, if I'm going to be quite honest, I know some people are very fond of chaff mobs as Vampire counts. And in certain matchups that can be a good idea. Simply, if you're just trying to make use of, say, a Luminarch, or not Luminarch, if the Vampire player, if you're trying to make use of, say, a Mortis Engine or some sort of these drain effects, then yeah, maybe you want to go heavier on the chaff. But in general, I find that you're better off as a Vampire count player bringing Graveguard. Graveguard is just so solid, so very tough to kill and break from the vast majority of enemies. The sole, I think, exceptions being factions like factions that have some super elite troops, like Chaos, where your Graveguard probably won't have quite the impact you want them to have. But regardless, the Graveguard here just basically was able to shrug off all this fire. My opponent had basically almost no units to shut them down. He had no real units to shut down the Blood Knights besides net and shoot with his handful of AP units, but those were very dispersed. And of course, one of the good things about bringing a Luminarch is that if your opponent only has one source of summons, you can prevent them from shutting down your backline reliably with skeleton or zombie summons. That's one of the nifty things about a Luminarch. But nonetheless, these guys just got compromised way too quickly by this mob of infantry, by the heavy cav, by the Blood Knights. You can see one of them gained 2 chevrons, or maybe even 3. One of them gained, I think, 2 or 3 as well. Direwolves did some damage, and the Vargulfs, it doesn't show, but they do some splash damage. They do quite a bit of AP. They were tearing Knights down. They were tearing the heroes down, which is really what matters as well. For my opponent's build, it's a bit of a gimmicky build, so it's hard to really give advice here. I definitely wouldn't bring this much free company, and I probably wouldn't bother with the crossbows. I'd probably try. I just don't think this is that competitive a build. I think you need some sort of anti-large, like proper anti-large. I think great swords are good, but you know, it was a good attempt, and you can see Temploff Luminarch definitely had chipped off about 80% of Mannfred's health before I finally cast an Invocation of Neck. Regardless, good game to my opponent Samheim here, or Samheim. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.